Tresky. Awesome. So I get to keep that timer facing me. All right. So I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible, so that way he doesn't throw his MacBook at me, and that would really hurt. So I have 5 minutes to tell you a little bit about tile engines. So I don't know who's heard of tile engines, but you typically see them in your older video game style things like Pokemon games. I don't know who's spent hours on those. They handheld Pokemon. Yeah. Am I in the way of the camera?
No, just try to stand like right
back here.
That's perfect.
Okay. So the question is, what is a tile engine? So just briefly, a tile engine is a way to sort of render a larger scale image, but using as few resources as possible over a large area. So I'm going to have to keep going back and forth.
No, that's fine. It's just stand right there.
So according to Wikipedia, this is what they say it is. So it conserves external resources like PNGs or anything like that, but it also conserves RAM space. That way you can sort of just shove as much in there as possible, but without slowing down your machine. Oh, thank you. So you usually see this in like old video games like Mega Man or Super Mario or something like that, but it remains a very powerful technique for rendering large-scale things even today. So here's an example of what a tile might look like in your old retro Pokemon game. You can sort of see how everything's like rectangular based in some regard. Even the things that are sort of curvy still have that rectangular appeal. And so this is what it would look like, and then this is what it would be. This is what it would be made of. It's just made of this one image, but you have a grass tile or a road tile or a mountain tile, and then you just repeat it all over the page wherever you want it. And so you have a very small amount of external resources, just this one page that's maybe like 300 pixels by 300 pixels. But you can create something that's exponentially larger. But also it conserves a lot of RAM space because you only really need to render on the screen what you're currently looking at inside of your view. So you have this scrolling effect that you would find in your old Pokemon games. So the center here, you can see our little goat there. He's within the viewfinder, but the rest is not, so we don't even need to worry about rendering that. And then as we move, we can sort of bring in more tiles. And for whenever you're creating tile maps, there's a couple different methods you could use to make it. One of my favorite ones is using a custom XML format. And then it just becomes a simple make an XML parser to figure out what your map data is. So you can just have like a tile set tag, a layer tag, and then put all your tiles inside of it and just put them all down. And of course, you'd probably want to use an editor for this, so you don't have to type all that. Go ahead. And actually, that's the very end of the slideshow. So I'm going to show you really quick something that I've been working on for the past couple years, just in my spare time that I don't have. So this is a tile engine that I've actually created myself. And whenever I was young, I wanted a project to help myself learn. And so I was working on this tile engine that would help me build my C++ skills. And so this is all object-oriented. I have a little square as my character. But then I can switch to different modes, so I can click and it'll move. Or if you want Google Maps style, you can do like a click and drag type thing. And so you can see I don't really have like a full map out here. But so yeah, that's just a little bit about tile maps and tile engines and just the very basics. Hopefully I can continue to make this better and better, and maybe I can talk more about it later. Thank you guys.
Like try to stand in front of the black, and then you're in camera.
I was gonna have a puppet show.
You can do a puppet show. That is a lot.
I don't have slides, so you're gonna have to listen really good. My voice isn't great. My name is Jean. I'm a UX designer at Code School, and I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I have an agenda tonight. You are our users at Code School, and I am here to pick everybody's brain. Since there's not enough time for that, I have a sign-up sheet that I'd love you guys to sign up with if you'd like to help us build Code School better. So, part of my talk tonight is going to be giving you guys an excuse to think a little bit more about UX. So one of the questions I want to ask you guys as developers is, while you're developing, who in here thinks more about the goal of the project that they're building than they do the code itself? Bunch of hands. It's a good portion of you guys, right? It's hard not to. Okay, who imagines a user using what they're building while they're building it? Even more. So who cares about the experience that the user might have while they're using the thing that you're building? So Most people raise their hands somewhere in those questions. That makes you all UX designers. We're all UX designers. So, change the name. So, the reason why this is really cool is I want you guys to start thinking about your implement or your say in the design process. So it shouldn't just be, you're not a code monkey, you don't have to just build things, you should have a say and input. So the way I like to think about it is it's my job to figure out what the want or need is from the user, and it's your guys' responsibility to tell me like the feasibility of that. So if you take this building structure as an example, I'm going to think about where the door should be, maybe some fire exits, like the floor shouldn't be too slippery and all those things. You guys are going to think more about the infrastructure of it, where maybe some support beams should go, and the layout maybe a little bit more. And that together helps us build a really nice room together. So without that infrastructure, I'm just making clouds everywhere. Like I don't have that infrastructure thought process. And the earlier we get that thought into our development processes and designing processes, the better the design will be and the easier it's going to be to iterate, because you guys will be thinking ahead. This is the first phase, but I know in the second iteration we're going to do this once and this once. So when my crazy UX brain says, I want this huge laundry list of things, you can say, we're going to take it down to this first. These are your wish list items. These are the order I think they belong in. Maybe this one doesn't make sense at all because of the way our tech stack works. And I think together, like, we will build better things while we talk together. So if you want, I beg of you, please, I have a computer set up back there. I want to take and learn as much as I can from everybody in here. So I just need some details from you, and I will reach back out to you, and we will help build a better product. That's all I got. Thanks.
With NeoReach. If you don't know about NeoReach, I will tell you in a minute, but the short thing that you need to know about is we bought the pizza. Yay! NeoReach is an influencer marketing platform. We are an analytics platform essentially for marketing that happens on social media. But that's not really why I'm here, because that's all business and that's kind of boring. So I'm here to talk about NeoReach's, like Gene, I have an agenda NeoReach related. I am here to talk about NeoReach's involvement in the community. I know a lot of you out there from either my time at Full Sail when I was an instructor there, or just in general from talking to you on the Slack channel, more specifically about a particular day that NeoReach was mentioned in the press when a lot of people freaked out that we were moving to San Francisco. I don't know if anyone knows about that, but it was a big day for me because I was being talked to all day about, like, hey, I heard that you guys are moving. And we had a plan to move, but that's changed. We are staying in Orlando. We are committed to Orlando, and we want to build our presence here and build up, become part of the community in Orlando. The main part of our team, the main part of our company has moved, but the development team is 100% committed to staying in Orlando because we really, really like Orlando, and we like the Orlando development team. That's more of a clap for you guys than anything, so thank you for being great. Anyone that I don't know, I want to get to know. Anyone that I do know, I'm very happy to see you guys again. Calling out Weston again. Hey, Weston. And my 5-minute presentation is going to be very, very short. I'll tell you a little bit about the technical side of NeoReach, but basically that'll be it after that. We are a mean stack company. Yawn, that's so typical. Yes, we're doing a lot of things with mean stack and Mongo that hopefully a lot of people aren't really doing because we're working directly with MongoDB on a few things. We've worked heavily with Mongoose, the ORM layer, to try to find bugs, create features, enhance the product forward. And we want to extend an invitation to anyone in the Orlando development community, and we're going to be pushing this more forward, to contact us if you have any questions about the mean stack. Come by the office, get to know us, talk to us. If you have any questions at all, send me an email. I have a bunch of cards. Find me after this talk or after the whole thing. Get my email address. Call me, email me, whatever. come by, just get involved with us. We want to get involved with you. We want to talk more about Node. We want to talk more about Mongo, Mongoose. What else is there? Angular. We do Cordova stuff. Anything at all that relates to that sort of stuff, we want to get involved more with. And just anything outside that's interesting in general. Any projects that you're working on, anything that we can do to help. Any activities like this where we can be a sponsor. If you have a cool idea, come to us. We may not say yes for everything, but we want to be involved in that sort of thing. So again, a little bit of an agenda, but majorly an agenda. But yeah, so we're Neo Reach. I just wanted to say thank you guys for letting us buy you pizza and for giving me an opportunity to talk and say hello to everyone that I don't know and say hello again to people that I do know. So thank you very much.
That's very innovative.
Yeah, the napkin shutter.
Yeah, yes.
Sweet, I have a single slide, and there it is, and it's so good. All right, cool. First of all, this is so crazy that this happened, and like I never thought this would be a thing, that it happened this way. So I just wanted to spend 4 minutes and 43 seconds, probably less than that, talking about just how like we got here a little bit, and just like kind of my own personal story and how like the community helped me largely like get to where I am in my career. I know Sergio mentioned a lot about like just not only being a place where you can learn technical things, but also a place where you can learn about like developing your own interpersonal skills or your professionalism or all those things. So the first event I went to in Orlando that was related to software or tech in general was a bar camp that Envy did while they were still in the Plaza building. And Purple Rock's current space was just like this empty concrete like area in the building. Like nothing had been built out there. And like Chris Coyer and like a few other like well-known people were there. It was literally the first thing I went to. I knew nobody. Like, I just showed up, and there was free lunch, and there were all these people that were into the thing I was into, which was, like, trying to make websites and stuff, or just talking about software. And I just thought it was crazy. It was like my mind was, like, blown. It was like, wait, people get together, and it's like, I was always so intimidated, like, oh, you have to, like, know your stuff, and, like, if I don't know anything, it's going to be, like, this fly on the wall, and I can't talk to anybody, and like, people are going to make fun of me because I don't know what I'm doing. But it wasn't that at all. Like, it was, like, immediately welcomed. Like, all these people were just like me, and it was just, like, so cool. So that kind of kicked off my desire to want to, like, be part of things. And I learned a really important thing that it's not about, like, where you are or how competent you are or whatever to, like, get value from the community. You just have to show up. You just have to, like, be there and not even, like, give a talk or you know, send pull requests in for a blog post on an open source blog, which is pretty sweet. But you just like be part of it and talk to people. And you didn't really have to talk to people. You just go and like see what other people are doing. So to see that that's like continued and you know has like grown the way it has is really awesome. So I don't know. I guess just as like a word of encouragement or just you know whatever it is. I've made like all of my contacts in terms of the work I've done and the jobs I've gotten and the job I currently have like through this community and through just like showing up. And I don't want to say like I'm bragging or whatever, but it's just cool that you can just go a place that, you know, I lived in Winter Park and I drove a couple miles downtown and suddenly it's like all of these people. And the bar camp then was not even that big. I mean, it was huge for that time. But, you know, they've only gotten bigger and the events have only gotten better. So I know it sounds crazy, like a conference, like for our own conference, like to like think about that we have to like put that together and make that happen is crazy. But we can make it awesome and we can make it super great. And yeah, if you're not on the Slack, get on it, like Sergio said. But otherwise, I don't have, you know, too much to say. Just really thankful that like all this happened. And to give a moment of like reflection on what Sergio said about the burnout. Like, I started the group and was, like, super involved in it for the first few months and then just kind of, like, I didn't, like, fall out, but I just wasn't actively, like, being a member. And I kind of like experienced that a little bit too, because I used to do a Node meetup. I used to contribute to Orlando.js. Did a few other things in community, and like I totally experienced that. And the fact that the community is still here, and people like Sergio and Kaylin and David and Jeremy and like all these people are here, it's just so awesome to see. So it's true that the community really sustains itself, and it's not an individual that does that. So anyhow, yeah, that's it. 39 seconds left. So.
Bro, you only have 15 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you. You're good on power, right? Yeah, like stand like halfway between the table and then just try to imagine standing like, between the black spot. That way everybody can see you. That's what Jeremy's for. Jeremy is a professional slide cover.
Great.
Right?
All right. So I'm Paul Didrich. I'm from Colombia. I go to Full Sail, and I like security a lot. So I want to do a little talk on JSON Web Tokens, which is a way you can authenticate users in a really cool way. So what are JSON Web Tokens? They're like a compact way of storing data. You can use it as a token, or like to authenticate the user, or you can use it to just send information from one route to the other. So the cool thing is that they can be signed with the HMAC algorithm, or a public key or a private key or pair, which is the way I like to do it. If you want to go down, thank you. So yes, the use of it is authentication. So once the user is logged in, it gets through your page, he puts in his credentials, then he's given this token that will let him access the routes and services, whatever. Go to the right, please. Thank you. So the structure of a JSON Web Token is a header, a payload, the information I sent, and the actual signature. So it looks kind of like that. So the first at the end, well, it's actually a lot longer, but for example, it's like that. It's separated by a dot. You go down. This is what a header looks like. It's two parts, so it's kind of like showing what the token is. So the algorithm and the type. You can see that. And then there's the payload, which can be a lot of things, like how long, when it'll expire, like a name, if it's an admin, who issued it, you can put it, whatever information there. Going down, and then there's the signature. So, it looks pretty ugly in the example, but it's nice when we have the code. So this is my little analogy. So say you're going to a dance center in Colorado. It's pretty cool. And then your web app. So go down. Your security booth is like your login page, your login screen. So you go down, you check with the security guy, tell him who you are, why you're here, how long you're spending, and then you get a token. So the token has like how long you'll be valid for, who you are, why you're here. So if we go down, say you want to go to the server room, which you can't go to, it'll prevent you from going there. Or like the admin dashboard, which will get you in like all the data for your app. So that's how you do it. If your token says that admin equals true, you can get in. If not, then no. And then routes like FAQ pages want to ask for it, because it's like you have a bathroom, you want to ask for a token to go to the bathroom. And that's it.
You're getting sleepy and stuff, so he will go through stuff quickly, he promised. Or not. He wants to keep you all here all night, whatever. Anyway, we have how many t-shirts left? 2 double XL.
And then a few mediums.
We still have a few mediums, so grab them while you can. Meanwhile, wait for Jeremy to get set up.
That's it. I'm set up.
Oh,
How are you set up?
okay.
Well, we're all set. No slides. All right. So, hey, now I'm in the screen. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy. I came to talk to you guys about getting started freelancing today. So how many people here are currently freelancing or consulting on a full-time basis? 2? Great. How about part-time? There's a few more. All right. How many people are interested in doing it? Nice. Fantastic. All right. So this talk was originally supposed to be like 30, 45 minutes long. We don't have that much time. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit like the high points of what I wanted to talk about, and then I'm just going to open the floor for questions, and it's just going to be open Q&A. So if anybody has any like specific questions that I can answer, then I'm going to take that approach. So the high-level point is for when you're getting started. If you are brand new to consulting and you've never done it before or freelancing, start out by casting a wide net. You've got like the best way to freelance is to take the intersection of your skills, talent, and interests and come find some way to turn that into some type of marketable service. So if you're a web developer who's interested in e-commerce, then you can become a web developer who focuses on e-commerce development. Ta-da. But basically what you want to do is cast a wide net, try to get as many clients as possible by going out and meeting as many people as possible. And that's going to be a common theme tonight. You need to get out of the room and talk to people. You have to go out and meet people and network and attend events like these or other events, any kind of like social mixers at like your Chamber of Commerce or whatever. Like these things actually have a lot of value if you're wanting to do like contract work for businesses that actually make money. Here's a couple of real quick tips. Startups are cool. Everybody loves startups. Don't be a freelancer that focuses on startups. Startups don't have any money. They can't pay you, and their equity is worthless.
Yep.
Still bad.
Thank you.
Sound like speak from experience. All right. I have no idea what you're talking about. When you're trying to decide who you want to serve, try to focus on companies or people that have money and are willing to spend it on whatever it is that you're trying to do. I know that kind of sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but not enough people actually think about these things. If you're serving startups that don't have money, obviously they can't pay you. All right, so a lot of freelancers, when I see them start out, they try to focus on things that aren't really key or core to actually getting anything done or making any money. Getting clients is more important than anything else that you think you need to do. Business cards don't matter. Your branding doesn't matter. A website doesn't matter. A business license doesn't matter. An incorporated company doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. The minimum viable freelancer can stand up and say, I am a sole proprietor, and you can start taking business. That's it. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm also not an accountant, so I cannot give you legal or tax advice. But this has worked for me. It's worked for other people. It's probably pretty safe to do. The thing about it is all that other stuff doesn't matter unless you have money, unless you're making money. And once you start making money, you can hire people like a lawyer or an accountant to take care of that crap for you, and you don't even have to worry about it. As long as you do a pretty good job of keeping your books in order, do basic things like separating accounts, have an account that is specifically for your freelancing stuff that does not intersperse with your personal expenses and money management and all of that stuff, and just keep a good... I didn't even notice that until just now. Thank you. And just keep a good handle on like how you're keeping track of your money and things like that. You will be fine. Go get some clients, make some money, go hire an accountant. They will take care of all of the crap for you. That's probably like the single most important piece of advice so that you don't get screwed up by the IRS. So yeah, any time that you spend not getting clients is time wasted, unless you're doing work for clients. So speaking of the balance between trying to get clients and doing work for clients, one of the things that I see freelancers do way too often is overtax themselves, not keep track of their actual utilization. How many people have been involved in projects where you had to work like 60, 70, 80 plus hours a week? That is insane. Don't do that. And there is a very, very, very simple, and I say it's simple, but it's actually kind of difficult, but there is a simple way to avoid doing that. Actually keep track of your utilization as a freelancer. What you want to target is about 50 to 70% utilization, and 50 is ideal. If you are freelancing, you want to spend about, if you're working a 40-hour week, you want to spend about 20 of those hours doing actual billable work. The rest of the time should be spent on building your business, marketing, sales, networking, all of that stuff. And enough freelancers don't consider that. You've got to work on your business as much as you work in your business. So if you're spending 40 hours a week programming, when are you finding more clients? You're not. And that's the feast and famine cycle that a lot of freelancers go through, is you finish a project, you go 60 hours a week hard on this project, you come out the other end not knowing where your next client's going to come from. You didn't spend any time doing marketing in that block of time. Build a pipeline. Start actually scheduling work out in the future. Find clients that are willing to wait a bit to start their project. If they're willing to wait, you can say, okay, I am booked for X amount of time. We can slot you in at the end of my current project and go for however long their project needs to go. Do that repeatedly, and you have work for however many times you can do that. It's not that difficult of a concept. Just not enough people actually focus on it. Charge more. You are 100% charging not enough for what you do. I can just blanket statement that for all of you. And the reason that I know this is that so many of you are probably taking what you want or what your previous yearly salary was and backing that out against an hourly rate across a number of hours that you intend to work for a year. And that is the total wrong way to decide what your hourly rate's going to be. First of all, if you can avoid it, don't do hourly rates. Try to bill like by the week or on a per project basis. And if possible, take whatever it is that you're planning to charge and anchor it to the value of the upside of the project that you're doing. That requires you to work for profitable businesses, and that requires for you to actually know and understand what the upside to the business is for the project that you're doing. So you got to ask lots of questions to really understand the domain that they're operating in, and so that you can really, really, really get this client and know what the benefit of the project that they've brought to you actually is to them. So that is about the high level points of what I wanted to talk about. If anybody has questions, we've got like however long until you guys are ready to stop. In the back.
So obviously the whole point is just go out and get it done and worry about attorneys and all that stuff later on.
Yes.
But for your clients, what do you do initially in terms of a contract? You hazard a handshake, you go to LegalZoom, you get something like that.
What's that? So the question. Thank you. So the question is, if you're just starting out, you need things like contracts. You need things like proposal documents and things of that nature. How do you get those when you start out? The best answer I can give you is there are templates that are pretty suitable for beginning this work that exist out there on the internet. Some of them you can get for free, and getting a lawyer to review a document is significantly cheaper than getting a lawyer to create one. So if you feel unsure about one of these documents, you can go find a lawyer and say, hey, can I use this for whatever service it is that you want to provide? Let them review it, and you only have to pay a fraction of the cost of actually having them create one for you. Anybody else?
When should I raise my prices?
That's a good question. The question is, when should I raise my prices? So, what's that?
As soon as you can.
Yes, correct. Today, yesterday. You should raise your rate yesterday. The best answer for that is probably when you've reached the cap of however far you want to go on your utilization. The thing about keeping track of how much time you're working in your business is you can take that utilization percentage and shrink it naturally by raising your rates. Because if you're overtaxed, if you have too many clients, if you're doing too much work all at once, you are in demand, clearly. And things that are in demand by Economics 101 should increase in price to whatever the sustainable price is for that product. And the moral of the story is, you're a business. Act like it. Thank you.
How do you know whenever you're skilled enough to start freelancing?
How do you know when you are skilled enough to start freelancing? That's a good question. Here's the deal. There are businesses out there that need things that are literally as simple as a random number generator in Ruby. That you can write a random number generator and it serves whatever the purpose is for whatever that business problem is. The problem is finding those businesses. It doesn't take a whole lot of technical skill. It actually takes more business know-how, so to speak, as far as like being able to talk to a person, listen to their problems, understand and process those problems, and come up with a technical solution for them. And you don't need 5 years of experience in whatever your particular language is to be able to do that. I honestly feel like junior developers, people that are like just out of school, if they can afford to, should start with freelancing before trying to get a job, just because of how much the job market requires prior years of experience before you can even apply. So if you can start out by freelancing and get some work under your belt, build a portfolio that way, it makes it much easier to get a full-time job if that's your goal. And you might turn out that you like this freelancing thing and want to scale that up and do that full-time.
Do you require deposits on your projects?
It depends on the. The question is, do you require deposits on your projects? It depends on the project. There's a concept, and I'm going to try to not rabbit hole in this too much. There's a concept called productized consulting, where you take basically a service that you offer and condense it down to like something that is repeatable that you can sell to any company that needs that service. You package it up. It is just a packaged deal that, hey, you get this service and this is what it contains. For those type of engagements, yes, you have to pay upfront before you get the service. On general like development services or things like that, it depends on the size of the engagement for me. Smaller engagements, I don't require a deposit necessarily. For larger ones, if you want my time, you're going to have to give me a little something up front. Anybody else?
Also, you should also require a deposit if they require you to use some special tool that you have to pay for yourself.
Yes, actually, if there's anything that you have to use as part of the project that you don't own that you have to buy, definitely require some upfront cash so that you can actually acquire that stuff. Any other questions?
You mentioned that equity is worthless, and that's fine. Between that and just getting paid either weekly or by project or whatever, have you ever engaged or have any thoughts on the wisdom behind maybe doing some other creative type ideas? Like, have you ever worked with somebody maybe doing a rev share on the back end or anything?
So the question is basically, have you ever engaged in other payment methods besides straight cash, maybe considering revenue share or combinations?
Yeah, maybe a lower rate for something further down the road?
No, and I typically don't recommend that simply because cash is king, and I want you to just pay me what I'm worth right now. You have no guarantee that what this company is about to do isn't just about to tank itself or anything of that nature. And I've seen that happen far too many times to trust in a business's competency to actually give you that upside in the future. So I prefer just pay me now. But that's my personal take. Okay. Questions? John?
So I feel like there's this idea that if you're freelancing, you're competing against somebody in a different country, let's say India or something, who will work for cheaper rates.
Yes.
Or there's some savant out there that's been doing this for years. Like, Can you speak to that? I feel like this is myth out there about this stuff.
Okay, so I'm gonna the question is, when you're freelancing, it feels like you're sometimes competing against people in other countries that can charge a much lower rate than you, and there are people out there that are like way better than than you are. So I'm going to first start with the people in other countries that work for way too little. There's this concept that I had a name for it, and Will and I and Garrett talked about it earlier, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head now. Basically, it's specialization. When you are in the beginning, you're casting that wide net. You're trying to get clients, whoever they are, whatever they do, whatever they want you to do. That large, it basically acts like a funnel as far as like your specialization is concerned. At the top end, you're saying, I can do anything for anybody, which means that you can't really do a whole lot of things for anybody. But it also means that everybody that hires you is going to treat you like a commodity. And when you're treated like a commodity, you're paid like a commodity. And all of these developers that are in other countries working for like $2, $3, $4, $5 an hour, they are a commodity. What you need to do is specialize over time. So as you start to work down that specialization chain, you get farther down, the more premium prices that you can offer, because you come in with the knowledge of, all right, I'm working with a business that does this thing. I have a really intimate knowledge of this thing. It's my specialty. I can charge a lot more money because I know what the upside is for improving this thing for this business. So, as a personal example, the highest paid engagements I've ever worked on have been conversion optimization. So basically taking marketing pages and making them function better. So analytics, tracking any kind of like click-through rates and whatever the goals are for those pages, split testing headlines, split testing buttons, like all of that stuff. There's a lot of copywriting involved. There's a lot of like, those are super, super high value engagements because it's very, very easy to tie an upside to the project that you're working on. So you're able to look at it and go, okay, well, if you get a 2% increase in conversions on this page, that's actually worth like $1 million to you. I'm not going to charge you $40 an hour for this 3-hour project. That was insane. I'll just leave it at that. Effective hourly rate of $3,000 an hour. Literally, the skies are the limit. If you specialize properly and you're really good at identifying those companies that need whatever that specialization is, and you're really good at telling them about it, and telling them how they can be better, and telling them how you can help them be better, and really, really, really focus on helping people. Because one of the things that I've noticed from being in this community in particular, and we're going to go back to community for a minute, and I'm going to talk to you guys about why you should be doing tech talks and things like that, because all of this stuff, it ripples. It's like a ripple effect. Every time you stand up here in front of people and talk to them and display competency in a subject or display expertise in a subject, they're going to remember that. And anytime that helps someone, they're going to remember you. And the next time that person hears about a project that you are an expert in, they're going to go, hey, I know Sergio, he's the JavaScript guy. Somebody needs a JavaScript project done. Sergio, you want to meet my friend Sergio?
No.
But Sergio's utilization is insane, so he needs to raise his rates. Any other questions?
If you got something that you need to learn before you get started on a project, do you consider that billable time?
Oh, that's a really good question. If you have something that you have to learn before you get started on a project, do you consider it billable time? Yes, 100% yes. If you come into a project absolutely knowing nothing about what you need to know, that's tough, really, really difficult. But if it's not like the core of the project, Like if you are a very, very competent Node developer, but you haven't necessarily worked with Mongo, you probably aren't going to take like a super long time to get competent in using Mongo. So I think that is an acceptable expense to give to a company for hiring you if you're a really, really solid Node developer, for it, as an example. That good?
Yep.
Will?
If all my clients make the project urgent, should I make them urgent for me as well?
Oh, Will. Will asks, if all of my clients make their projects urgent, should I make them urgent for me as well? Maybe. And the reason that you would is if you charge them for it. So anytime a client asks you for any level of urgency, that costs money. If they want their project done in 2 weeks, but you think it's going to take 3 weeks, all right, well, that's 33% more time that I have to spend in a smaller amount of time. You're going to have to pay me like 50% more. And also, this kind of segues nicely into setting proper boundaries for clients and making sure that you set the expectations up front of how you want the engagement to operate. Because when you start working with a client, when you start an engagement, they're going to treat you the way that you let them treat you. And you can't change that after the fact. The only way that you can change a client's behavior toward you is to fire them. Because once you get involved with a client and they get to a rhythm and a way that they interact with you and a way that you've allowed them to treat you, they don't want to change that later. You can't show up to a client at like 3 months into the project and go, all right, sorry, I'm not answering calls after 8 o'clock anymore. They're just going to still do it. They don't care. So set proper expectations up front. Question?
What about clients who like ask you to create a website and then manage it afterwards?
Charge them for that. Yeah. The question is, if a client asks you to create a website and then manage it afterwards, that is called a retainer agreement. And what you're going to do is say, all right, I'm going to allot you X number of hours every month that I'm available to do whatever thing that it is that is required for maintenance in this project. And you're going to pay me for those hours whether or not I use them. And if something happens and you need to go do it, hey, you're paid for that time. But if you don't have to do anything for that website because it's just up and running, well, what they're paying for is security. They're paying for the peace of mind that you're available in the event that something goes wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. Running against time. All right, let's do, can I do 15 more minutes of questions if that many happen? Are people okay with still doing questions?
In regard to his question with retainers and hours, do you personally allow people to like bundle hours over the course of the month so that they can like front load or back load if there's a project coming up for them?
Okay, so sorry, can you repeat the question?
So basically, like if you're allotting like 4 hours a month for this particular client for
Okay.
their retainer,
Okay.
would you allow them to use like 12 as long as they know that for the next 2 months they're off, but they're still paying? Or would you bundle it backwards like roll over?
No, I don't do rollover, and I don't do additional hours beyond what the retainer agreement says.
Okay.
If they need more time, there's usually something in the retainer agreement that says, hey, you're getting this number of hours. If you need more, this is what it's going to cost.
Okay.
Like Verizon, man.
Yeah. What's that?
You're like Verizon.
Yeah, there are data caps on my retainer agreements.
Can you write a blog post on this?
Can I write a blog post on this? Yes, I can.
Will you?
At some point in the future, yes. Will you pay me for it? No. All right then, I guess not. Any other? Yep.
I would add someone over here talking about competing with people that can work overseas for much less. You will eventually have clients that have done that in the past. The reason why you want it is the reason why he says to go spend half of your time going to networking events like this, going to different meetups, going to the Chamber of Commerce is doing something. because working with local companies, someone that you can talk face to face to, is something that those clients are not going to get by going overseas. The overseas clients can't come in and have lunch meetings. The overseas clients can't come in and provide demos for their company on how to use voice. So, if the company is willing to do that, they're going to get. There's a big reason why you should be paid more than $500 an hour for someone overseas.
Well, the add-ons to that, many companies have already worked with the cheaper solutions and are much more willing to pay much more than they pay to get the job done.
And the flip side that I don't think that I answered earlier about the savants that just know way more about this stuff than you do, you would actually be completely mind blown if you actually take a minute to think about how many companies there are just in this country alone. It's literally impossible for those people to serve all of them. You got a question?
Yeah, I would also throw in on competing against other countries. There's typically a huge quality difference.
Yep.
Developers here in the States, obviously people are willing to pay for that.
Yep.
The other thing is outsourcing outside the borders makes sense at scale. It typically doesn't for smaller projects. Matter of fact, it can be far more costly to outsource a smaller project. And being smaller companies, particularly with individual consultancies, that's a huge advantage for you guys. You can fill a need in a niche that is impossible to fill outside.
Yep. Any other questions? In the front?
This may not have happened to you, but you might have some thoughts on it.
Okay.
What if you were to complete the deliverable,
Okay.
pay for it, everything met expectations, but then at a later point, the client came back and said that something wasn't performing to the original expectations after you completed? How do you handle that?
You have X amount of time after an engagement to file a complaint. After that time has passed, it's a new proposal.
If they filed a complaint, though, would you charge them more for additional work, or does it still come under what the original agreement was?
If it's within the time window, and we can sit down together and go over it and say, yes, this doesn't fit the original spec, then yes, it's a fix. If we sit down together and we go, I'm sorry, this actually performs the way it was originally designated. If you would like for this to change, then that will have to be a new proposal.
Well, what if a client asks for an estimate and you don't really know how long it's going to take?
If the client asks for an estimate and you don't really know how long it's going to take, ask more questions. You need to know more about the project. Don't commit to a date. Don't commit to a time frame. Don't commit to anything until you know enough about the project to make educated guesses. And sometimes you're not going to have enough of a frame of reference to make an educated guess. And if it's a long-running project, those are the times that I generally tend to recommend things like weekly billing with like iteration deliverables. So like if you can say, all right, you've got this big project, we're going to break it down to these milestones. You're going to pay me this amount of money, and it's going to take this long to hit this milestone. And then you do these check-ins very, very frequently with the client to make sure that your expectations are correct, their expectations are being met, everything is okay. One of the biggest things you have to do and understand in freelancing is communicate. Over-communicate. Over-communicate. If you feel like you're communicating enough, you're not. Communicate more. If you feel like you're annoying them, communicate more.
Manage expectations.
Yes, manage expectations. That's the name of the game.
Just a bit more on how you've been successful in finding and obtaining clients that are looking for, or that have money.
Just a bit. So you want me to say just a bit more on how I've.
How you've been successful in finding clients that are looking
Okay. Events, talking to people. I mean, one of the things that I've done that is actually really huge, and I'm going to start doing it again soon because of how successful it was, workshops. Put on, like, in the beginning, free. Eventually, once you have more of a brand for yourself enabled, you can maybe offer them for money. But in the beginning, like, free workshops. Go find businesses that you feel fit within the niche that you want to operate in, give them an introductory lesson on what it is that you do so that they get it. They understand what it is that you are trying to help them with. Because the name of the game is really helping people. That's all of my best clients have come from just helping people, like trying to be as helpful as I can within the community, with the companies that I work with. Like, one of the things that you'll notice is people tend to remember the people that help them more than anyone else. So if you talk to a potential client and it turns out that you're not a fit, if you know someone else that would be and you refer them and make that connection, they'll remember you as the person that was able to make that connection happen. Because at that point, you're seen for that client as somebody who just gets shit done. You provide solutions. But the workshop method has worked really well for me. Is you actually have to go out there and meet people, schedule an event, find companies that you feel are in your niche, find people inside of those companies that you feel like are good contacts, reach out to them, do a little research on the company, find out things that they've done recently, something that you can say, hey, congratulations on X, for example. Like if they've had some kind of big win recently, you can reach out and say, hey, congratulations on this thing that you've done. Here's something that I can do that's kind of related to that, and I wanted to give you access to a free workshop on it that I'm putting on later this month. And you're not going to get a ton of yeses. You'll probably get a lot of no's. But of the people that do come out to these things, and you actually provide real value to them, and you actually are able to help them with whatever it is that you are specializing in, those people will come up and they'll ask questions, and you can walk them through whatever the process is for getting them into your pipeline so that you can then sell to them. Any other questions?
When you said the over-communicate part, have you found particular tools have been helpful with clients? I'm thinking like project management tools that you can share with them so that they can see and monitor the progress of things. What's worked for you?
Basecamp. I love Basecamp. That's basically all I use. Any other questions?
So for the development side of things, I think maybe we'd all be in agreement that you can't just learn something like development or programming language. You have to go to want it.
Sure.
You've got to have a passion for it.
Yep.
For freelancing, you've also got that business development side.
Yep.
Is that something you have to have a passion for, or can you just learn?
So I am an introvert by nature, so I hate talking to people, which makes this really, really awkward for me. But I still do it because it's required for the things that I want to do. In a sense, yes, but you can make it a little easier on yourself. So one of the things that I do that I think is really helpful is I take advantage of kind of my developer brain. I think of things in terms of like patterns and systems and processes and things of that nature. Automate as much as you can. And part of automation is practice. If you can, so for example, when you're first starting out and you're trying to determine what services you want to offer, the type of people you want to serve, you want to think about who they are, what their pains are, what they really want, like what their business wants. Write this stuff down and verbalize it. You need to be able to, at the drop of a hat, talk about what it is that you do in a way that is really, really quick, really, really succinct, and explains in enough detail so that somebody can say, hey, maybe I don't need that service, but I know somebody else who might. Being able to talk about what you do really, really effectively is the huge reason you go to these events, so that you can build an army of people who are willing to refer work to you because you've provided them some kind of value and they understand what it is that you do.
One thing I would suggest for particularly folks that are introverted or are afraid of the sales process, and really afraid of public speaking, you guys have a really cool opportunity right here in town. It's right across the street, behind the exchange here. It's called Saks Comedy Club.
Oh, yeah.
You go take the level 1, level 2 classes. It's a hell of a lot of fun. And I will tell you, for sales folks, it should be absolutely
Yeah, the recommendation was SAC Comedy Lab right over here. They're level 1, level 2 courses. I also recommend those. I personally haven't done them, but I know people that have, and it's a literally night and day difference once they come out the other end of those. Any other questions? We've got like 3 minutes. Anybody? Anybody? All right. What's that? Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.